tell from the title of this video, it is finally time for another readathon. I have been putting off doing this readathon for about a month now, and I was like, Faith, you just need to bite the bullet and do the challenge. I try to do a 24-hour readathon every summer. I really enjoy the challenge, even though as someone who doesn't really do well with like extended periods of no sleep and staying up super late, it's definitely not my strongest suit, but I try to keep it lighthearted and fun because that's all it's supposed to be, fun. So if you're unfamiliar with the concept, basically the point of a readathon is just reading as much as you can for a certain window of time. So I always do 24-hour readathons. So I'll just be reading as much as I can during this window. I woke up at 4 a.m. this morning and read for about an hour and a half, and then I had to hop and do some work for about an hour and a half, and now it's 7 a.m. so I'm getting back into my reading. So to catch you up on what I've already read, I read about 30 more pages of Jenny Colgan's The Bookshop on the Corner. This is my book club book for my book club this month, and I just read to the end of our section, so I'll put up the discussion for that. But I probably won't finish this in this video because I don't want to read ahead. I want to read with my book club members, so I did read a little bit more of that. And then my current read is Never Let Me Go. I was actually inspired by Carolyn Marie Reeds to read this book. She said it's been one of her favorites this year, and it's been on my shelf for ages, so I decided to pick it up a few weeks ago. And for the past few weeks, I've been in a bit of a reading slump. I really haven't been doing much reading at all, so my goal is to at least finish this one in these 24 hours, and I don't really know what I'll read next. I guess we'll just see as the video goes on. And I always like to plan a few fun little tasks during my readathons to kind of break up the reading, and so I did write a little list of things that I'll kind of do in between bouts of reading. And I will say lastly that I definitely will be doing some work on and off today. It is a Monday, so definitely have responsibilities that need to be taken care of. But yeah, for now, let's just get back to reading and see how far we can get. Okay, well, that was not a lighthearted book. So I am going to make some food and cheer myself up a little bit before I get back to reading something else. Okay, Okay, so I just got finished eating and I thought I would come on here and update you. It's about 2 p.m. so we are 10 hours into the readathon. Yeah, 10 hours into the readathon, and I have finished Never Let Me Go. This book broke my heart, and I knew that it would because, first of all, when Carolyn Marie recommended it, she said that this book like made her bawl her eyes out, and everyone I talked to on like various social media channels, when they found out I was reading this, they're like, oh yeah, be prepared to get your heart broken. So I knew that it would be sad, but I think the reason it caught me off guard is because the premise of the novel is different than it implies in the blurb, and I'm not really sure I can say more without it being like kind of a vague spoiler, but it's definitely so much deeper and richer than it hints at in the blurb on the back. I mean, Ishiguro basically crafts this whole new reality, and it's masterfully done, and it is incredibly heartbreaking, just the very premise of the novel. And I definitely needed to decompress after finishing this. It was sad. It was heartbreaking. I mean, there's really no other way to put it, but it was phenomenally done. This was my first Ishiguro that I've read, so I'm very happy to have read him now. So now I am in the process of choosing what book to read next, and I've narrowed it down to 3, and I think I'll just decide while I'm talking on here. The first is Anne of Avonlea. This is the second book in the Anne of Green Gables series. I finished the first book last month and loved it, and I bought the whole boxed set, so I have all 8 of them on my shelf. And I don't know, this will be nice and light and cute, so I thought it was a good option. Next is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. If you have been around for a little bit, you know that this is my favorite novel ever. I love Steinbeck, and this book, I just can't even describe how incredible it is, and in ways that I've never really encountered in another book before. So obviously I've already read this, but I have been wanting to reread it for a long time, so this was kind of an option for me. And lastly, this tome. Obviously I wouldn't be reading this in the readathon, but it's a collection of all the Sherlock Holmes stories. I've already read the first 2, A Study in Scarlet and The Sign of the Four, but I thought it could be fun to just read the next story in this series. Okay, I've decided I'm going to read the next book in the Sherlock Holmes series. I will definitely get to the other 2 very soon, if not in this video, then sometime soon, because they're very high up on my TBR list, but I'm just honestly craving like a good, you know, British classic, and that is exactly what the Sherlock Holmes stories are. So that is what I'm going to read next, and I think I'm going to go outside on a little picnic and break up the scenery. Okay, hello. It is an hour and a half later. I moved inside an hour and a half ago because it was very hot and sweaty outside because it is July. And I've just been reading, and I made it through 4 of Arthur Conan Doyle's Sherlock Holmes short stories. So I read A Scandal in Bohemia, The Red-Headed League, A Case of Identity, and The Boscombe Valley Mystery. And I think I'm gonna call it there on the Sherlock Holmes stories. Since they're all short stories and I read 4 of them, I'm gonna kind of count it as like one book for the purposes of this video, because sometimes, I mean, they're not super long stories, so I feel like one isn't a book, so just loop them all together into one. But it was very good, but I do feel like the short stories of Sherlock Holmes can get kind of hard to read over and over again, because they're like, each new mystery has a whole cast of new characters and new plot, and it's just very disorienting to read too many. So I'm gonna stop at 4, and I am feeling a little frazzled in the brain because I've been reading for like the past 2.5 or 3 hours. So I think I'm gonna go out and pick some flowers like I said I was going to do, and then Austin's gonna come over and we're gonna do dinner together, so that will be a good little mental refresh for me, and then I will get back into the reading tonight. It is a couple hours later. Austin came over and we had a nice dinner and just watched a bit of TV, and my brain did lots of recharging, so I'm feeling ready to dive back into my reading. It's about 9 p.m. and like I said a minute or so ago, I'm going to move on from Sherlock Holmes. And of the other 2 books I picked out, East of Eden and Anne of Avonlea, I decided to pick up this one next. It's around this time of night that my brain starts to kind of slow down. I'm not a night owl and my brain kind of shuts off at like 10 p.m. So I want to pick up East of Eden another time when I feel like I can really absorb it for all of its wonderfulness. Not that I don't want to absorb Anne of Avonlea, but I do find these reads are a lot lighter and simpler and just easily enjoyed. And yeah, I am planning to just read this for a while until I get too drowsy, and then I will probably shower because that'll kind of wake me up, and then read as much longer as I can until eventually I will probably just tap out and go to sleep. I know in previous readathons I have actually gone from 4 a.m. to 4 a.m. and I don't think I'll be doing that this time. I haven't shared this yet on any of my social media platforms, but I've actually been recovering from a pretty severe bout of anemia. I've been recovering for about a month now, but even so, my energy levels aren't where they were, and I'm just generally a little weaker, and I'm just trying to take better care of my body these days while it heals. So anyways, I don't think I'll be going to 4 a.m. tonight because, like I said, my energy levels just aren't up to that right now. But I will say, if there's one lesson I've been learning during this recovery process, it's that even if I can't do something perfectly or exactly how I want to do it, doesn't mean I shouldn't do it and can't enjoy the process anyways. So instead of continuing to put off this readathon, I just told myself that I have permission to rest when my body tells me that I need to, even if it's before 4 a.m. So I hope you'll forgive me, but hopefully I'll at least make it to like 1 or 2 a.m., which is fairly reasonable for me. I stay up till then working some nights, so it's nothing crazy. But anyways, I'm going to get reading, and at the end of my night, before I say goodnight to you, I will kind of go back through everything I read today and give more in-depth thoughts. So don't you worry, and let's get reading. Alright my friends, it is about 2:30 a.m. and I'm gonna go ahead and call it on this readathon. So before I ended the video, I kind of just wanted to recap everything I read and the general experience. First off, I hope you're enjoying my very fashionable, free rec center t-shirt that I use as a pajama shirt. It's actually like my favorite pajama shirt. I wear it probably more than I should, but please enjoy this peak fashion. So the first book that I read for this readathon technically was The Bookshop on the Corner by Jenny Colgan. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm reading this with my book club this month, which is why I didn't finish it. I want to obviously stay on pace with the rest of my book club members, but I did read about 40 pages of this first thing this morning right when I woke up. And it's very cute, a very wholesome read, and if you're interested in joining our book club, the link is always in the description. The next thing I read was Never Let Me Go, and I was already about 90 pages into this book. I was currently reading it when I started this readathon, but I did finish it, which means I read almost 200 more pages. And this book really did kind of catch me off guard, as I was saying. Now that I've had some time to sit with it, I think the reason it struck me as so sad, I mean there's really no better word, heartrending maybe, is because it's not your typical sadness. It just plays on these themes of inevitability and accepting one's fate and how love can look really different given unique circumstances, and sometimes love is about, you know, not what we typically think of as love, especially in novels these days. And I don't know, it really caught me off guard. It's not at all what I was expecting going into it. Like I said, based off the blurb, I wasn't really expecting it, but it was a beautifully done novel, and I can tell why Ishiguro is a very acclaimed author. And if you're looking for a good read, I definitely recommend, but you know, be prepared, as everyone was telling me, for a little bit of heartbreak. And next up, I read 4 short stories in the Sherlock Holmes collection. So I read A Scandal in Bohemia and The Red-Headed Society, The Red-Headed League, A Case of Identity, and The Bascombe Valley Mystery. And I'm counting that as a book because I don't really know, I don't know, it's definitely not 4 books, like they weren't that long, but I don't know, so I'm counting that as a book for this readathon. But they were very good. I really love the Sherlock Holmes stories. They're just super fun and nostalgic and just a good way to mix up what I'm reading, I guess. And I will say that this collection is by Canterbury Classics, and I do work with them on Instagram, but this video isn't, I don't know, technically sponsored or anything, but I do love having collections of certain things because that way I have it all in one place. So instead of having to have the separate books for all these stories, I do really love having them all in one place. And I have similar editions for Charles Dickens and Jules Verne, the Bronte sisters, Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Frost, Walt Whitman. So anyways, I do love having kind of collections of stuff because I feel like it's easier just to keep everything in one place. But I do love this collection. It's very beautiful. I tried to kind of show you guys when I was out on that picnic earlier because it was really pretty in the sunlight. Oh, I almost forgot. In the Sherlock Holmes, I probably read about 170 pages total. And then lastly, I started Anne of Avonlea, which, like I said, is the second book in the Anne of Green Gables series. It is so, so cute, and I will admit I kind of miss little orphan girl Anne. She was just so endearing, and I just fell in love with her so deeply. And even though Anne is much more grown up in this book, it's still wonderful to see her journey and kind of where her life is heading, I guess. I made it about 180 pages into this, and I don't know, it's very cute and it's cool to see some new themes popping up now that Anne is older, so there's a little romance and stuff like that. So I'm excited to read the rest of it, and I just think this whole series is going to be such a source of joy for me. I've had a lot of you reach out and say that particular books in the series, like I think number 5 especially, I've heard from a lot of people is just an absolute favorite of yours, and I'm really looking forward to reading it, and I think it will be a good comfort thing to return to, especially during this semester when I'm stressed. So anyways, those are the 4 books that I read during this readathon. Definitely not my most productive readathon ever, but honestly, given everything, I'm really happy with how it went. I do hope that you enjoyed watching, and if nothing else, it inspired you to pick up a book and read for a few minutes today. If you made it to this point in the video, go ahead and comment your favorite author if you have one, just because I think that's interesting to hear. My favorite author, probably Steinbeck, if I had to just name one off the top of my head, but I don't know, I'm always open to new favorites. So anyways, I really appreciate you being here. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you next week. Bye, friends.